Okay, think about this for a second. The device you're listening on right now, maybe an EV you saw today, those huge wind turbines. What if I told you there are these hidden elements inside all of them? Critical elements. And one country pretty much controls the supply. We're talking about rare earth elements. And today we're really going to dig into China's, well, undeniable dominance in this whole market. So our mission here, using the insights from your sources, is to unpack how China managed to get control of, well, basically the entire rare earth process. From pulling them out of the ground right up to them becoming these vital parts in our tech. And maybe more importantly, what does that actually mean for tech, for green energy, and let's be honest, for global politics? We want you to get a really clear handle on what's arguably one of the biggest choke points in the modern economy.
Yeah, it's hard to overstate just how vital these rare earth elements, REEs, really are. They're not just some, obscure things on the periodic table. They're absolutely essential, foundational, really, for so much high-tech stuff. Think about the powerful magnets, right, in EV motors propelling those cars, or the generators and wind turbines, even the tiny bits that make your smartphone work. It's their unique magnetic properties, their catalytic abilities. They're often irreplaceable, which of course makes China's control a huge global factor. It touches almost every industry and definitely our daily lives.
Okay, so let's unpack that. To understand China's control, we have to start at the beginning, right, where they actually mine these things. The stats are pretty stark. Something like over 60% of global rare earth mining happens in China. That's based on, 2024 estimates? But it's not just about the sheer amount they dig up, is it?
No, absolutely not. It's more than just volume. China happens to have some of the, well, richest and easiest to access rare earth deposits globally. You mentioned Bayan Obo earlier in Inner Mongolia. That place isn't just big, it's like a geological jackpot for these elements. And their industrial setup is really sophisticated. They're so efficient, they don't just get the main REs. They also pull out valuable byproducts, things like scandium and yttrium, quite profitably. It's all very integrated.
Right, that makes sense. Great deposits, efficient mining.
Mm.
But okay, just digging them up isn't the whole story. Their strategic advantage, their real grip, it tightens further down the line, doesn't it? What's the next step that really locks things down?
Ah, yes. This is where it gets really, really crucial. The true chokehold China has. It isn't just mining, it's in the next stage, processing and refining. This part is notoriously difficult. It's complex, chemically intensive, and frankly pretty dirty environmentally. And our sources show China refines a staggering 85 to 90% of all the world's rare earths. That even includes ores mined elsewhere. Australian material often gets shipped to China just for this refining step.
Wait, 85 to 90%.
Yeah.
That's practically a monopoly on refining. So if it's that hard and hazardous to separate out the individual elements, the neodymium, the dysprosium, why didn't Western countries just, I don't know, bite the bullet? Invest in their own processing plants years ago. They have reserves too, right?
Yeah, exactly the right question. And the answer is, well, China did invest, early and heavily, and critically, they were willing to accept the environmental costs, which are substantial, dealing with acids, radioactive byproducts, waste disposal. Many Western nations facing tougher environmental rules, higher labor costs, community opposition. They just weren't prepared to make that same commitment. They effectively outsourced the problem, and China stepped right in, saw the strategic opening.
Okay, so China mines a lot, refines almost everything. But what about turning those refined elements into actual things, the components that go into our gadgets? Do they dominate that final stage too?
Oh, absolutely. That's the next crucial link. And yes, they dominate it. This is where it really hits home for the end user. China rules downstream manufacturing, especially when it comes to making magnets. We're specifically talking about those super strong neodymium iron boron magnets, the ND-Fib ones. These little things are workhorses, absolutely vital for EV motors, for wind turbine generators, even the tiny motor that makes your phone vibrate, or the speaker components. China makes something like 85 to 90% of those globally.
Wow. Wow. 85 to 90% of the magnets too. And our sources name specific huge Chinese companies doing this, right? Like Jailmag, Chaleso, China Northern Rare Earth. So they're vertically integrated, from the literal dirt in the mine to the finished magnet in your, your headphones or your car. China's involved nearly every step.
That's the picture. Total value chain control, pretty much. And when you see that level of control, you can't ignore the geopolitical angle, can you?
Yeah.
This isn't just about business competition. It's about strategic resources. It's leverage, something China can potentially use in disputes over tech or defense.
And we've seen them use it, haven't we? I remember the 2010 incident. They restricted exports to Japan during that island dispute.
Yeah.
That felt like a real warning shot. And then just recently, 2024, they put export controls on gallium and germanium, different elements, but critical for semiconductors. And that immediately made everyone nervous about rare earths again, right? Like, could they do the same thing there? Have we learned anything?
Well, the vulnerability is definitely still there. High vulnerability. These actions, they aren't random. China clearly sees rare earths as strategic assets, leverage in tech supply chains, defense supply chains. It's about ensuring their own industries are secure, yes, but also about having that pressure point they can apply globally when they feel they need to. It's quite deliberate.
And it's not just controlling what's inside China and flexing that muscle. They're also playing the long game globally, aren't they? Investing outside their borders.
Yes, that's a really important piece of the strategy. They're funding or outright owning stakes in rare earth mines and projects way beyond China. We're seeing this in Africa, Southeast Asia, even places like Australia, Greenland maybe. This does a few things for them. One, it helps lock in future supplies for their own massive manufacturing base. Two, it gives them influence over other potential producers. If you're a key investor, you have a say. And three, it helps direct where the global trade flows go, reinforcing their central role. It's smart looking ahead to secure those inputs.
And this forward-looking strategy, it goes beyond just mines and investments, doesn't it?
Sure.
Our sources talk about a big push in R&D, supply chain integration,
Yeah.
almost future-proofing their lead.
Precisely. There's significant government backing, huge subsidies going into research and development. They're looking at advanced metallurgy, better ways to recycle rare earths from old electronics, which is crucial, and even research into finding alternatives to rare earths, though that's hard. This all fits perfectly with their big Made in China 2025 plan. That's their blueprint for becoming a high-tech superpower. And rare earths are explicitly named as critical for that self-reliance goal. They're constantly investing, looking at cleaner extraction methods.
Yeah.
They are not standing still.
Okay, so that paints a picture of pretty comprehensive control. Which brings us to the other side. What about everyone else? Is it really a lost cause? Or are there, some weaknesses in China's position? Is their control totally absolute?
Well, absolute is a strong word, but their position is incredibly strong. The main challenge for the rest of the world is, quite simply, the lack of robust alternatives right now. It's not that other countries don't have rare earths. The US, Canada, Australia, they have significant reserves. The raw materials exist. But they face big obstacles. They desperately lack the complex processing infrastructure, that refining step we talked about. Plus, they face much higher environmental hurdles, stricter regulations, higher costs, things China handled differently. So even if you mine it in, say, the US, you might still depend on China for refining, or definitely for magnet manufacturing. That dependency is the key issue. The potential chink, maybe, is that the geology isn't exclusive to China, but building the rest of the chain, that's the hard part.
Right. Which leads us to the obvious question. What's the outlook? Can other countries realistically catch up? Is anyone actually building this alternative supply chain?
People are trying. There's definitely movement. The U.S. Department of Defense, the EU, they're putting serious money into domestic projects now, funding mines, R&D, processing, pilots. But, and this is the key thing, these efforts are still seen as being, 5 to 10 years behind China's established system? It's a big lag if you look country by country. The USA has high potential long-term if the investment continues. They're trying to rebuild that whole chain. Australia has huge reserves, and they have Linus Corp, a major non-Chinese processor, so medium potential maybe, growing. Places like Vietnam, India, they have reserves too, but the industry is really just starting, so low to medium potential for now. And then the EU and Japan, they don't have as much geology, so they're focusing more on recycling, finding substitutes, and diversifying who they buy from. It's a multi-pronged effort, but slow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's bring this back to you, our listener. What does all this actually mean? It means China's grip on rare earths has really deep implications, geopolitically, technologically, economically. It affects global industries, innovation, everything from the phone in your pocket to the giant wind farms powering our future grid. This control shapes supply chains, it impacts national security, and it even influences how fast we can make that big shift towards a greener economy, because so many green techs depend on these elements. So just to sum up what we've unpacked today, China's power in rare earth isn't just because they have a lot of mines. It's because they strategically built control over the entire system, mining, refining, making the final products like magnets. And they've shown they're willing to use that control as a tool on the world stage.
Absolutely. And the core takeaway, really, is that until other countries or blocs manage to build their own complete independent supply chains,
Right.
from the mine right through to the magnet,
Yeah.
China's very strong influence in this absolutely critical sector isn't going away anytime soon.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. We're all moving towards green tech, right? EVs, wind power. They need huge amounts of these rare earths. How do you think this current map of control, this dominance we've been talking about, might shape the speed and maybe even the politics of that vital energy transition? Something to mull over next time you plug in your EV or see those turbines turning